Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Explode Your Expert Biz Show. Simone Vincenzi here with Jairek Robbins. Jairek, how are you doing today?
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for having me, and thank you everyone for taking time to listen in. I appreciate your time.
Fabulous. Today we are talking about all things around the speaking business and growing and scaling and speaking business. Something that you have done very successfully and you're doing very successfully. I've been following you for years and I've been on many of your Facebook Lives as well. So, Jairek, before we start, can you tell us a bit more about yourself for people that don't know you?
Sure. So what our focus is and what we do every day is we help people become the happiest, healthiest, strongest, and most fulfilled version of themselves. Now we have an array of vehicles that allow us to do that, from all our online assets for Instagram, social media, YouTube, blogs, all that jazz. We have a book that's written that goes around the world, is published in multiple languages, and thousands of people have read it all over the globe. Mm-hmm. We go out and do presentations and trainings inside the corporations. We have ongoing training we do with companies that we train their sales teams and help do their leadership planning each year and help them map out the next 12 and 24 months of their business plans and help them fine tune that for operational success. And then I personally coach entrepreneurs. Most of them are 35 to 45-year-old males who own anywhere between 0 to 7 companies, most in the 5 to 7 companies range. Yep. They have 50 plus employees. They make $500,000, and I help them optimize their personal performance. So I work with them one-on-one, and we track everything between how well they're able to clear their mind in the morning to how well they're able to stay calm and focused throughout the day by tracking their breathing throughout the day as well. And so we look for ways to optimize them as a human. I'm not sure what else people would want to know.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I know that I have a personal question because I know that you do a lot of things around business and around personal performance. Personally, what are you most passionate about? Are you most passionate about business or about personal performance?
I'm most passionate about loving my wife.
Okay.
Like the number one priority in my life is loving my wife. If you look at my goals every week, it's number one is to make my wife feel like the most loved, seen, appreciated, understood, and acknowledged woman on this planet. And so the most important thing is loving her. Because in the end, if you look at the 5 regrets of the dying, where men on their deathbed late in life, none of them said, I wish I would have made more money, or shit, I wish I would have had a longer board meeting that week. All of them said, hey, I wish I would have done things that were really true to my heart. I wish I would have spent more time with the people who mattered to me most. And so I optimize most of my time to figure out how do I spend the majority of my time loving her, taking care of her, being there for her, listening to her, caring for her in every way possible. And I'm very, very lucky that she does the same for me.
Now, this triggers a question for me because we are talking about expert business, and a lot of coaches, speakers, trainers that are listening right now, they are a one-man or a one-woman band. Now, you know, when you're working by yourself, then and you have a small team or sometimes no team, it can be quite challenging. I remember at the beginning I found very challenging creating the time to spend with the family, with my girlfriend at the time and so on before I got married. So how do you balance that? How do you make sure you balance if you are at a stage where you're kind of growing, but...
It depends on the stage of business you're in. So going back, and when I first started my own coaching practice, that the very first thing people should know is I spent 6 years coaching under the umbrella of a very large coaching organization.
Yeah.
So they brought in clients. I coached clients on behalf of them, but I spent 6 years refining my skills as a coach before I decided to open up my own coaching practice. There's lots of coaches who don't do that and then wonder why it's so hard to deliver. So I spent 6 years practicing for a major corporation, then went out on my own. And when I went out on my own, before I went on my own, I spent 2 years doing outside sales. So office to office sales. I would run anywhere between 1 to 4 or 5 presentations a day. I did over 800 presentations in 2 years in offices all across the United States. And so by pure repetition of doing it again and again and again, and a lot of those presentations were horrible. Mm-hmm. They were just horrific if I look back and review them. But doing 800 presentations in 2 years, I got pretty good. I started to recognize what works and what doesn't.
Yep.
I had many quarters where I completely failed and many quarters where I did extraordinarily well. And what I started to learn, though, is how the process works. What's the conversation you have to have with someone who doesn't know who you are, doesn't like you, doesn't trust you, and thinks you're wasting their time? And how do you get through to them and have a conversation that causes them to go, oh, this is interesting. As a matter of fact, this is so interesting, I think it's worth talking more about it. And as a matter of fact, I want to sign up with whatever you have right now. Let's do a business deal. Let me have some of what you got. So I had to figure out how to do that in 45 minutes. In front of an audience that doesn't know me, doesn't like me, doesn't trust me, and never seen me before or know who I am. And so having 800 attempts at doing that helped refine the skill and get to a point where, hey, now I could go tweet, which is how I built my original business.
Yep.
If you want to see how ugly my website was, go to thewaybackmachine.com, type in JarekRobbins.com, go back to 2009, 2008, and you'll see a all black website with a black and white picture of a tree in the middle of it for some reason. I thought that was a good idea. You'll see my name written across the top with the big word that says welcome. And then underneath it, it'll say click here for coaching. And somehow that
so
website,
sexy and appealing.
somehow that magical website and Twitter helped me generate $100,000 in revenue in the first 8 months of opening up my coaching practice. And so when people think like, oh my God, I need a $5,000 website because that is going to help me enroll clients, it won't. Nope. I need more marketing collateral. I need better email templates. I need a better Facebook portfolio. I need more YouTube videos. None of that will make a difference until you know how to walk out on the street, be like, hey, you there, come here for a second. Let's chat. Do you have a minute? No? Okay, great. Let's chat anyways. Until you know how to engage another human being, how to stir up a conversation, how to ask questions, how to truly be there for them and not for you, how to really, truly help them figure out what's best for them. And if it's you, great. If it's not, direct them where they need to go. Until you can engage at that level and you're willing to do it and you're capable of doing it and you're comfortable doing it, it's very difficult to grow a coaching practice. But I was doing that for 2 years, came into my own, had 6 years of coaching practice before that. So 8 years of preparing. And then I opened it up. And in 8 months, I was able to produce $100,000 in revenue. And I had enrolled 52 one-on-one clients per month with 2 or 3 sessions a month each.
That's not bad at all. And I have to say, it says a lot about you. It says a lot about your drive. It says a lot about your determination and who you are as a person. Because we see a lot of speakers here in the UK, or a lot of coaches that they don't have that. And when you say, hey, you got to go out there and do a lot of events, and you got to go out there and do your presentations, then they say, but I did too. And I'm like, yeah, great. Do you want a pat on the back? So, well done. What were some of the mistakes that you said that you made a lot of mistakes during this presentation? Some of them were horrible. What were some of the mistakes that you realized that you were making that were costing you sales while you were at the beginning?
So there's a differentiation to make, and this one's really important because there's lots of people who have the same title but do radically different jobs.
Right.
And so the title speaker gets put on a lot of different jobs. There's people who sell. These are salesmen. Nothing wrong with that. I love salesmen. I've been a salesman a lot of my life. It's awesome. So there's sales. There's entertainment. These people don't sell anything. They're there to entertain people. And they're not there to like educate. They're just there to entertain. There's education. Like these people are purely there to pass on information. It's usually boring, but it's useful information. It's like tactics and studies and statistics and all this stuff. It's good, but it's boring as hell. And then there's kind of infotainers who have combined these two and figured out how to do them both. But a lot of these people, the sales, the reason they're getting on stage and speaking, the core purpose of it is to enroll a client or a service or a product or something like that. The infotainer, edutainer kind of education, entertainment piece here, they're not there to sell anything. They're literally there just to deliver the experience or the information. And these guys kind of get grouped into a keynote speaker category.
Yeah.
And a keynote speaker or a corporate speaker, and there's trainers, which is another category as well. Like they're kind of infotainers. Hopefully they're entertaining, but they're there to like train rigorously on information. Now, what's wild, the best way I've ever seen this scale created is if you took a scale like this and it had a meter that goes across it, and you put the least profitable and the most profitable. Entertainment is the most profitable, and education is the least profitable. Teachers make like $30,000 a year. Movie stars and basketball players and football players and all these people, they make like hundreds of millions of dollars a year. And it's not because of their athleticism. They're entertaining. Like, you have to remember that when you go to a football match and you have a stadium full of people going, go, 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 go. The people on the field are entertaining you. They're making it look like the most amazing match you've ever seen. And this guy's so pissed at that guy. And this guy, red card. It's entertainment. They're there to get you to go, no. And think about it. If you go to most salespeople, depending on where they fall on this scale is depending on how well they do. The really entertaining ones, they tend to do really well because people in their audience are crying and laughing and going, oh my gosh, no, how could you? And the ones that are boring as shit, they don't tend to do very well. People are like, okay, maybe it's useful. And unless you're selling very specific knowledge that people want, like, I mean, it's even out of date now, but if in 2 months ago you were selling how to invest in Bitcoin, you might have had a chance because you could be boring as shit.
But the topic really is so current.
And the market's going so well, you could tell people anything and they'd make money. You're going to make some money even if you're boring. But right now, with the market completely falling apart, if you sell, and who knows when you're watching this, maybe it's gone back up. But right now, the market's completely sliding. And if you're boring and sell how to invest in Bitcoin, you're not going to make any money because people are not going to listen to boring and a falling market. A rising market and boring, you might get some clients. A falling market and boring, you're out of business. And so this concept of if the first thing you want to rate yourself is where's the entertainment level in which you deliver whenever you're presenting. Now, the second thing is you want to figure out, like, how do you do it? Are you sales? That's totally cool. Salespeople make a lot of money speaking. There's lots of people. Like, there's guys who can get up on the big stages and sell $500,000 or $1 million worth of product in 15, 20 minutes. It's impressive. But there's another category. There's a keynote speaking category. And a keynote speaker, you get invited to Microsoft. Now, if you get up in front of 5,000 Microsoft employees and start talking about your online program that you've created that can teach them how to become super wealthy, they're going to kick your ass off the stage and never invite you back. There's no chance in hell Microsoft is going to allow someone to do that.
Absolutely.
So there's a second category called a keynote speaker. You are there to bring an experience to their audience. And I say experience because it's edutainment. It's educating them on something, but entertaining them in a way that they go, ooh, ah, wow, ah. And the company is better because you were there. And that's a keynote speaker. And then after, if you're really good, you might say, hey, Mr. Bill Gates, I was your keynote speaker yesterday. I know you're not the guy to talk to, but I've got this great training program that I think could be great for your sales team. Who should I chat with? Chat with Jim in sales. No problem. Thanks so much for having me. Hey, Jim, Bill Gates told me to call you, set up a meeting where I could show you our sales training program, see if we could roll it out to your 5,000 sales reps. Okay, cool. Let's set up a meeting on Thursday. You come in, you say, here's what it entails. I'll do calls once a month. Plus, we have this online training program and these books and everything else. And they go, great, let's buy it. If Mr. Gates said, let's do it, let's do it. And kapow, you make a $5 million deal to train Microsoft for the next 3 years. And that's a trainer. Yep. And if you listen to the numbers, it just depends on what part of the game you want to play. This dude can make $1 million pitching from stage and selling stuff. These dudes can make plenty of money as a foot in the door to go to a keynote speaker. I'll give you a story of a friend of mine who's a keynote speaker.
Go for it.
She grew up homeless in New York City. And so she was sleeping on the D train. If you've been to New York, it's a subway train.
Yep.
She was sleeping on the D train, sleeping on friends' couches, never went to school. She'd go panhandle for change during the day. And she said when she would get $1.65 in change, it was the greatest day because she would take that with her best friend. They'd go to a local diner and they'd get a plate of French fries and a Coke, and they'd share it together. And every fry tasted like heaven, she said. It was amazing. And so what happened was, at 17 and a half, she says, you know what? I'm going to go to school for the very first time. So she enrolled herself in public school. She went to school. She graduated 2 years later, not because she was super smart. She just had nothing else to do. She was living on the street and homeless. So it was either study or nothing. So she studied and she got good grades. She started writing her opinion to the New York Post, the newspaper, and they were posting her stuff in the New York Post. And then she wrote a scholarship letter and she won a scholarship from the New York Times to the college of her choice. She ended up giving in to Harvard. And so she ended up going to Harvard University after being homeless her entire youth. She went to Harvard. They made a little movie after her. They played on television here. And then I think it was Stephen Covey or one of those guys heard about her story and then called her and said, hey, can we pay for you to come and be a keynote speaker at our upcoming conference to share your story? She was like, sure. And they said, well, what's your speaking fee? And she says, well, as long as you buy me lunch and pay for the trip on the train, I'll come down. And the lady started laughing on the phone. And she goes, I'm serious. If you don't buy me lunch, I'm not coming. And the lady laughed. Oh, honey, we'll buy you lunch. Don't worry about it. So they got her there. They introduced her to the head of the Washington Speakers Bureau, which is a really big speakers bureau. They represent past presidents. They represent major heads of major corporations and past generals from the army and stuff like that. Like they represent really big people in the world who've done extraordinary things. So they represented her and they said, how many times do you want to speak this year? She said, I don't know, as much as I can. And they were like, seriously? Okay. They booked her 55 times at, I think, $10,000 a speech. So she made over $550,000 being a keynote speaker, speaking sometimes 2-3 times a day, depending on where she was, while still going to Harvard and getting straight A's. So I think on Wednesday and Thursday, she'd go to class.
Yep.
On Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, she'd fly around the world and give speeches every day, and then fly home, and Wednesday and Thursday go back to class, and then go on the road again every week. And every week she would do that, and she ended up doing 55 speeches, so almost a speech a week. How many? 52? Yeah, so more than a speech a week.
More than a speech a week.
More than one a week. She was flying all around the world while going to school 2 days a week and still keeping her grades at Harvard, which most people stress out over going to school 5 days a week and stress out over trying to keep their grades.
Exactly.
So she was going above and beyond.
She's definitely a smart one. So where do you fit yourself? Where your business fits into these different grades, from the education, the infotainment, the entertainment, the sales.
We do all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just at an office for a life insurance company up in Los Angeles a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
And I was giving a presentation for about an hour. And at the end of the presentation, I enrolled a whole bunch of the group into a brand new training program we have. And then I went and talked to the boss about getting all their managers into our coach training program to train them to better coach and lead their people. And so we do that. I've booked a handful of speaking engagements around the world. They're all coming up in the next few months. And so we're hired as a keynote speaker in corporations. Like a group in Thailand hired us to come out and do a half-day training for them. And so they're flying us in. We're doing a half-day training for their group. We can talk about ongoing coaching, but they're hiring us as a keynote speaker for that training. I think Brian Tracy has the first day and I have the second day. And so that training's in Thailand that's coming up next month. And then we have also ongoing training for companies. So there's a friend of mine who took a company from nothing to a $1.3 billion publicly traded company. And he has me train all his current sales reps. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we hop on the phone. We have 15-minute calls twice a week. And I help train and inspire and keep his team. So we do ongoing training for companies. We do keynote speaking for companies. And then from time to time, I'll book myself when we have new things that we want to promote. I'll book myself to go speak for different groups to share with them specifically what we have. And all of them require different skills.
Absolutely.
Getting booked for an event where you can go sell something, it requires you having a closing ratio that's consistent and you being able to show them, hey, I can offer X value and I can deliver X result on the back end, and then we can cut a deal on how that's going to work out. If you're a keynote speaker, you have to be able to show, hey, when I come into your office or I come into your company, here's the results that show up on the other end by having me come in for that training. Your sales go up, your leadership is better, the growth of the company increases. You have to be able to show tangibles of what happened because you were there.
Absolutely.
And ongoing training, the same thing. Before I was there, here's where their numbers were. Since I've been there, here's where their numbers are. Okay, great. We'll keep having you back.
These are the two aspects that also we have in our business in GTeX. I'm taking care of the selling from the stage part. That's what I'm good at. I'm selling from the stage, selling from webinars. I absolutely love it. While my business partners takes care of recruiting, training, sales team, and recruitment agencies. So we have a specific niche, which is the recruitment market, and we do sales training for recruitment agencies. And I think that having this blend also allows your business to be bigger and to have more opportunities. And at the same time, is more difficult because you need to be or incredibly skilled or to have multiple people in the business to take care about the different parts. Now, we have a question from one of our listeners and from our members of the group, and is asking, how do you scale your business, which is based on your personal brand? Because everything is Jairek Robbins, right? So how do you scale where everything is Jairek Robbins?
So it's not. We have Performance Coach University, helpmefindlove.net, buynowbitches.com. We have a handful of things going on that people just don't link to me because my name or face isn't on them. And then we also do real estate. We also buy and sell companies. So there's a lot more going on that isn't Jairek Robbins. But thank you for the compliment. Everything is not me. It might look like that from the outside because you're looking at just my personal brand.
Yes.
So on my personal brand side, the things that are scalable in there, that there's not a ton that's scalable. So that's why we have Performance Coach University. Like we have a whole another company that trains coaches how to become coaches. And then we take some of those coaches, the really, really good ones, we invite them back, and I generate tons of leads for coaching off my website. So every day people are opting in saying, hey, I'd like to know more about coaching. Hey, how does your coaching work? All this stuff. And we pass them out to our coaches, the really good ones. And we say, hey, go talk to them. They'll tell you how it works. They'll tell you how to do it. As a matter of fact, they're a great coach. You should work with them. And we have agreements with those coaches that they can do coaching with us or for us. And so, I have right now a handful of coaches on staff that every day leads are going out to. And anytime they sign up clients, we get a piece of that because we've trained them and we generated the leads in the business. And so that part's scalable. We have a suite of online products and training programs. Those help us reach tons of people. We have a new program that's 3 months old right now, and it has over 920 students from 71 countries or 72 countries in the program right now. And so that was a 3-month project. It was more than that to build it, but over the last 3 months of sharing it, so we've been able to coach virtually 900 people around the world from over 72 countries with an online training program. So that's allowing us to scale and coach a lot more people. Our coach training program is helped build tons of coaches, and those coaches are helping coach other people. So that's helping us reach even more people. And then all of our digital content online, most of which is free, YouTube, Instagram, this kind of stuff. All these things help reach tons of people and coach just to make a difference in their life for the sake of making a difference. Absolutely.
And I think the question that it was asked and that you answered perfectly was what do you create? What else do you create that is to make sure that actually you create something scalable? Because I found that a lot of people that are starting, that are already very successful as speakers now, they are using their personal brand to then create projects where they are the face of the brand, but then the delivery becomes outsourced to other teams or other partners, and they do different models to help them scale that part of the business. So thank you for sharing the way you do it. Appreciate it.
Sure. The piece that I'd watch under that thought process is there are a bunch of people who are outsourcing certain things, and I wouldn't recommend some of them. I know there's other speakers who get on stage and sell coaching with their company. And then there's literally one company that delivers coaching for like 15 different speakers.
Really?
And I scratch my head and I'm like, wow, that's really not legit.
No.
Because you're buying coaching from that person's company, believing that they train those people and they're credible and consistent. And some random third-party company that just does coaching in general is coaching on behalf of them. And I'm like, wow, that's not cool. Like they're trying to skip the step of actually having to build a team and train a team and have a legitimate team that knows their stuff and lives their stuff and can really deliver their stuff, be there. And instead they're trying to skip that step of having to have the overhead or the team. And they're trying to jump straight to having what other companies took years to build. And it's very silly. I would always ask before hiring someone, like we train all of our coaches. They come through Performance Coach University. I work with them personally. We make sure they are legitimate at what they do and they absolutely deliver. There's a secondary piece, which is there's lots of people. And I was one of these people when I was 18 years old, decided I'm going to become a speaker and a coach. And that's great, but there's a lot of life experience lacking. And so if I were to look back and give myself any advice, I would say, hey, go succeed in something else.
Yes.
Like go do really well in something, take all of your experience and then come into this space and say, hey, here's what I've been able to build and create. Now I'd like to coach people in this space. And whether that's transforming your body or building a business or having an amazing relationship, do something. Like live it, really, truly live it, and then decide to assist others or speak on it or share what's working. And so there's a philosophy we live by, which is number one, learn what it takes to really get the results you want and go do it, live it, and actually get the results. You can be like, hey, this is how we do it. And then give it, pay it forward, and then be like, hey, let me share with you. There's lots of people who just want to be a speaker one day. And what have you done? Well, I woke up today, so I'm going to speak to the world. And there's nothing wrong with that. If there's something you've done that you can share with people and you're not teaching them what to do, but you're relying on real experience. And I can tell you, after coaching now for, I think I'm on my 14th year, I know now more than I did when I started. And when I started, I only coached people on health and fitness and time management. Those are the only two things I coached people on when I was starting coaching.
So you became a real expert in those two things.
Well, I was living it.
Yeah.
I was going to school. I had multiple jobs. I had everything going on in my life, and I figured out how to optimize time. And I figured out how to time making a juice in the morning. I figured out how to time getting the right amount of sleep every night. I figured out how to time just enough to get 2 coaching calls in between my lunch break to eat lunch and get back to class. I figured out enough time to study and have fun and have a life. But like managing time was something I was really good at. And my health and fitness. I went from 5'9", 225 pounds, radically out of shape and unhealthy, to running marathons and triathlons and figuring out how to optimize my health from the inside out.
Yeah.
And I was really healthy. And I could show anyone how to do it. And so those two things is what I coached people on, and it worked. And over time, after spending now 7+ years growing a business, now I know how to coach people on growing their business. Why? I've had a business that's grown every year.
Because you've been there. Because you've been there, done that, you're doing it. No, it makes me think about what I did when I was 22. Because when I was 22, that's when I realized that was 7 years ago, and I realized that I want to become a speaker. Now, I made a big mistake at that time. Big mistake was one. I wanted to become a life coach and didn't, of course, have enough life experience to be a bloody life coach. And the other thing is that I completely neglected my previous career because I started at the age of 19. I was the youngest Michelin star restaurant manager in Europe, and I used to manage Michelin star restaurant from the age of 19 and then be recruited in many different restaurants for it. And I've seen that there are a lot of people that what they do, they want to start a new career as a speaker, forgetting and neglecting their past, like where their connections are, where their successes are, where And if I were to do something different, instead of reinventing myself, which took me about, I think about like 4.5 bloody years before people started actually believing me and trust me in that I was good at what I was doing and building all this expertise, is also to look at where are you already successful? What are, like you did, you only coach people on time management and health, because you were the living being, the living proof that you could deliver that. So I think that there is a great message there, and everyone is listening. Don't make the mistake I've made. Don't make the mistake because it cost me a few years on this tree.
We help them. Like when we recruit people who want to become coaches for Performance Coach University, we weed out people who haven't significantly accomplished something in their life. So we look for people and say, hey, who do you want to coach? And what have you done in that category of their life? And we talk to them. And, we have a client right now who successfully started, scaled, and sold 2 different companies for multi-millions of dollars each. Now he's learning how to become a coach.
Yeah.
Perfect. We have a guy who came through. He's a consultant for Google and Salesforce and all these gigantic companies. He graduated with his MBA in business from the USC Marshall School of Business in Southern California. He's already a successful consultant, and he was adding on tools to better coach and manage the people side of the consulting because he already knows the business side. We're like, perfect. So we look for people who are already doing it, and we can add more skills to them and show them frameworks of how to do that side. And what happens is they're 10 times more successful than someone who just had the good idea to start one day.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I have 2 more questions before we wrap up, Jairek. One is from Carla, and she's asking, do you have a vision of a new way to do business in our present moment?
A new way to do business.
Yeah, that was the question. Do you have a vision of a new way to do business in our present moment?
If you look forward, all industry around the world is going to change dramatically. And if I were to look forward in my business, I'm not a speaker. That's not my profession. I'm a coach. And so I coach people professionally one-on-one. And I speak about those things. I take the tools and tactics we use in coaching and I share them from the stage so people can go, oh, that's what they do. And so all the results I have is not because I'm a great speaker. The results I have that I've helped people achieve is because I've coached them one-on-one. And we've doubled people's businesses. We've taken them from 3 million to 12 million in revenue. We've helped transform their relationship and their health and their business and all that stuff. But it's all one-on-one. It wasn't because I gave a great speech. Mm-hmm. Now, if I look at my industry, which is coaching, and say, what does the future look like? As automated machines and deep learning takes place by machines and AI starts to step in, what happens is a physical human coach becomes irrelevant because a bot coach or a digital coach that can read your blood pressure, that can take your heart rate, that can watch how your sugar levels move during the conversation, that can, sense your heat and temperature of your body, a machine that can take all of your biometrics as it's giving you information and advice and watch what you're actually receiving and what you're pushing away and not. Even though you may go, oh, that's good, but all of a sudden your heart jumps and your blood pressure jumps and it knows, oh my gosh, it didn't accept what I just shared with him. Oh, okay, here, let me go back and say it another way. You might also consider, and it says it another way, and it sees that you go, oh, okay, that makes sense. And something that can have all that information on you while coaching you and using deep learning, so it learns all of psychology, all of coaching, all of the most up-to-date information, all the most recent studies and research instantly, and can bring all of it to your situation right now based on analyzing everything it knows about you, it will be able to deliver better coaching and consulting than any human being will ever become close to. And so looking at 20, 40, 50 years in the future, I need a new job. Because a machine will clearly wipe the floor with what I can do. But I'm excited for that because that means clients get even better results. So if I were to look the new way of business, I would look forward to the machines and the artificial intelligence that's able to better coach and consult and lead and manage people than any other human could ever do.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating. I'm deeply intrigued by artificial intelligence. We are launching with a partner in next few actually I think in next few weeks, marketing and sales automation software with artificial intelligence for small businesses, and is interesting because I was thinking when I was talking with my partner where we were for the launch, and saying. I think I will need a new job as like a business consultant, because this stuff is going to be able to do a job much better than I could do it by pulling out all the data and so on. So it's going to be a massive change. It's an exciting time, and it's always about being on the edge, right? It's always about being there, being on the edge. Now, before we wrap up, Jairek, I want to ask you about your book, because you wrote an incredible book called Live It. Can you say a few words about it, and how can people find the book as well?
Sure. So the premise of that book was based on 10 years of my life trying to figure out how to turn my vision for what I wanted to do into reality. And so how the book works as a tool is chapter 1 and 2 is figuring out what is the vision of how you want to live your day-to-day life. And it's not the goals you want to achieve, it's how you want to live. Because a lot of people say, hey, I want to achieve this goal, therefore I'll do these things. And instead it's like, no, how do you want to live your life? Like, where do you want to wake up? How do you want to feel? What do you want to do every day? Who do you want to be with? If you remember the beginning of this conversation, you said, what's most important? I said, loving my wife is most important.
Yeah.
So therefore, when I design my day, I say, hey, I want to be able to take an hour-long walk first thing in the morning with my wife. I want to be able to meditate together. I want to be able to work out together. I want to be able to spend the abundance of time together enjoying the first part of the day every day. From there, I then want to be able to work with clients and help them and assist them in growing and becoming happier, healthier, more fulfilled. From there, I want to have lunch with my wife. I want to be able to stop everything and sit down and enjoy a beautiful lunch with my wife. I then want to jump back in the projects I believe in and do things like that. Then I want to wrap up the day with my wife. I want to go do yoga together at the end of the day and have this awesome session where we get to relax and rejuvenate and enjoy each other. And then I want to spend all evening with my wife. And so if that's how I want to live my life, how do I pick a career? How do I pick a job and other things to fit into my life based on the life I want to live? Instead of, oh, that's a really cool job, how do I make my life fit around it? I said, no. I want a really cool life. I'll make my job fit around my life. And so chapter 1 and 2 is figuring out how do you want your life to be, and then everything else can fit around it. Chapter 2 through 10 is how to turn that into reality. All the things I've used, from mental rehearsal and visualization and simple stuff like that, to science-backed information, it's just, here's what I did. Some of it is science, some of it is pseudoscience. So some of it has the research and studies that go, this works and here it's proven. Some of it's like, hey, I don't know if it works for everybody, but it worked for me, so I hope it works for you. And I'm not telling you you have to do it this way. I'm just saying, hey, here's literally 9 chapters on what worked for me. So take what you want, use what works for you. And then the final chapter is saying, hey, once you've been able to turn your one day into reality, now create your 5, 10, and 20-year vision for your life and turn that into reality as well.
Brilliant. And where can people find out about the book? Where can people get the book? Amazon, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Go to Amazon, type in my name, or go to JarekRobbins.com. You'll see Deepak Chopra endorsed it. He's right smack in the middle of my website. Just click on the picture of Deepak next to the book. And that'll take you straight to Amazon where you can buy it.
Brilliant. Follow the Deepak and get the book. That's the final message. Thank you very much, Jairek. It's been a brilliant interview. I loved every single second. One final word to leave our listeners with.
Really simple. Learn it, live it, give it. It's right there. Learn what it takes to have the life of your dreams, whatever it is that you want to be. Do have experience, share with this world. Number 2, live it. Find a way to make that your reality, like turn that vision into reality. And then once you do, give it. Find a way to pay it forward and help others do the same. Not your 5 fucking golden pillars of how to live life, but more so like, hey, here's what worked for me. If it works for you, take it. If it doesn't, toss it. But I'm just going to pay this forward and share it with you.
Thank you very much, Jairek. Thank you for coming on this call with us and having this interview, for being our guest. Listeners, thank you very much for listening. If you are listening, if you are watching on YouTube, or if you are listening on our podcast, thank you very much. Make sure that you hit right now that subscribe button, like you see that Juicy is calling you. Yes, hit it right now. Great stuff. And let us know, what did you love the most about this interview? Let us know so that we can send Jairek some screenshots about what you guys thought that made the most impact from what he shared today. Thank you very much for listening. Simone Vincenzi, Jairek Robbins at Explode Your Expert Business Show is everything, and catch you next week. Ciao.